you've never joined us before, it's totally unscripted. I have no idea what Catherine is going to ask. So it's fun.
It is fun. I think we'll do quick announcements now, and then we'll probably do a recap of announcements at the end. So we'll start with Ask Alida, which is taking a break for the summer. So this will be the final one before we resume in October. So, yeah, if you have any questions, now is the time. Otherwise,
Yes.
we will see you again first Monday in October. Anything else you want to make an announcement on, Alida?
Yeah, so the big one is that the novel journey, I'm gearing up to launch the novel journey soon within the next month, either end of June, beginning of July. I'm still pulling some details together. So the novel journey is a year-long coaching program for novelists. And if it's something you're interested in or might be interested in, go to wordessential.com. I think it's under the coaching tab. It'll say novel journey. You can get some more details. You can sign up for a discovery call. And if you are on my not a newsletter announcements about workshops list, which you can find at wordessential.com, you will be among the first to know. So big changes this year, which is why there's a lot going on behind the scenes. So that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you're in Minnesota, I'll be teaching a workshop at Rosemount's Art Blast in a few weeks here in June the 27th. I will have my books at the Inbound Brew Book Fair for grown-ups at the State Fairgrounds in July. And I've got a Substack post coming up very soon, going back into historical fiction, life with Evelyn, my protagonist. So something to look forward to. I think that's it. I don't know. Am I missing anything, Catherine?
Sounds good to me.
Oh, I am. No, I knew there was something. Murder in Skog Hall and Dark Corners in Skog Hall are both on NetGalley right now. So if you are a NetGalley reviewer, you can go search Skog Hall, grab a copy of both of those. And if you like the books, I would love it if you reviewed it. So there we go.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of everything in the announcements there. Love it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Workshops and events and books and big things coming.
Cool. All right. Well, I have a off the beaten track opening question as usual. And then we'll dive into our main topic. So, my opening question today is a little bit about time management. This is a hypothetical. If you only have a short time to write, is it easier for you to draft or is it easier for you to revise? And how might you prepare for that time?
Oh, well, that's a good question. And the answer is it depends on my work in progress, right? If it's Evelyn, my current work in progress, I've got enough material drafted that I can definitely focus on revision and still feel like I'm being productive. Or I could even go back into research because I've got enough ahead of me and it's a complex story, right? So I think I could kind of follow my mood on that one. But, if I'm in a different stage of the process, maybe I don't have enough material to go back and start thinking about revision, then kind of the only choice is to draft. That would be
Mm-hmm.
the most productive way to use whatever time I have. And that would be pretty obvious, I think. So, you know, when what I like to do is stage a writing space. There was a time when that was my dining room table. Right now I've got a specific desk. And so I'll use my table as an example. I kept all of my notebooks and my research and everything out on the table open. And I kept my pencil and my pile of loose leaf paper because I like to draft longhand sitting in front of my chair. So then when I was ready to write, I could sit down and that place and that staging cued my mind, right? This is what we're
Hmm.
doing. Drop into this mode. And so I quickly trained myself to be productive without a lot of fuss, which eats up time.
Yes.
So if you don't have a lot of time and you know you need to draft and drop into a creative headspace, stage your space, keep it available and open and ready for you.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah. Would you add anything? What do you do?
No, I very much the same. I have a dedicated space so that there isn't that preparation state, right? It's not like I have to get this ready to write. I would say that right now I've been doing a lot of revision and I feel I can drop into a revision as long as I know exactly where I'm at and what my goal is. So if I can leave that note at the end of the day before, then I don't have to think about where I'm at or what I'm doing. That helps a lot too. But yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, drafting is
Yes.
easier if you have short times and you're in that stage.
Yeah. And I'll add, like this morning, I hadn't looked at my novel for some days because I went away for the long holiday weekend. And then, I've been catching up on work all week. And so I sat down to write and I went back to the last thing I had written and read it. And as I read it, I made some minor tweaks, so I didn't really get to true drafting today. But that act of kind of a light
Mhm.
revision just got me back in the story's flow and reminded me of my place, where I was at, what I was thinking about when I left the project to go camping, right? And so now
Mhm.
tomorrow I'll be ready to drop into the drafting.
All right. I want to talk about conflict. And this has been something that's been kind of going around in my brain. So we'll see where this goes because I feel like there's both a lot and a little. It's kind of a niche and kind of also just everything. So my first question, I guess, is it fair to say that there's no story without conflict?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think dramatic tension is the engine that drives our story. The reason we want to
Hmm.
find out what happens next is because it's open-ended. There's a question mark. There is something to resolve. And if it's not conflict, then what is it? A series of events that doesn't have any sort of dramatic tension, doesn't need to be resolved, right? It isn't
Hmm.
begging the
Hmm.
question, what will happen next? So, yeah, I don't think we can have a story without conflict. Whoops, hang on.
Yeah.
Trying to read
I
this
see this.
comment.
Yes. So Virgil says, I have been writing a life story for 15 years off and on. We went to the CCU Christian Writers Conference. That was wonderful. Now the book is centered on our love story. I listened to your inspiring program, lost it for a time. Glad to see you guys again. Aw, thanks.
Thank you, Virgil.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, writing a life story can be quite a project. There's just so
Mm-hmm.
much in that. So cool. All right.
Yes.
So you talked about dramatic tension as kind of the purpose of the conflict. So is that something that would it does it boxes, plot, character, changes to the characters, kind of where does that dramatic tension and that conflict kind of center in terms of how you're planning it in your story? And maybe that's a bad question, but you can answer the badness of it.
Okay. Let's see. I mean, so in any story, you've got your main drivers of um, plot, character, and theme, right?
Mhm.
And all three of those drivers are going to be functioning together. One of them will be the primary driver. And
Mhm.
so, which one is the dominant source of tension in any particular scene is going to depend on that scene. So, you might have a plot driven story with a character relationship driven subplot. And so, what is
Mhm.
your scene dealing with? And how is that supporting driver feeding into your main driver? And, things get a little more nuanced and subtle when we're talking about a theme or a character-driven story, right? But then you're always looking and saying, how is this advancing the story? What is at play here? And what is going to be affected by what's at play, right? So, if you've got characters, uh, you've got a character-driven story, it's relationship focused, and you've got a really quiet scene of, let's say, a mother tucking her child into bed. Well, okay, this shows us that she loves her child, say. It shows us she's a dedicated mother. It shows us the, but what is the tension? In other words, why does this matter? How does it advance the story? So much so that we need to actually see it on the page in scene as opposed to just being informed through a bit of like narrative exposition dropped in or through some other moment. So maybe while we see her in this loving mother role, we know that she's going to tuck the child in and then go pack a bag because her marriage is ending and, she's whatever, whatever reason. So then there's this
Hmm.
element of heartbreak. There's a tension, right? A friction between the action on the page and something else happening in this character-driven story to and for and within our character. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I don't know if that's these off the
No,
cuff
I like
examples,
that.
but
No, I like it. I think sometimes I hear like the word conflict, and it's good to add extra words to that definition, right? Like there's a conflict in this scene. The conflict is between her and not the child she's tucking in. It's the conflict within herself or with her and the person in the other room that's unseen, but the tension is still there. And so you're dealing with that, moving the plot
hmm
forward or the character relationship forward, that friction, that tension. I like these kind of words around it to give it a better definition, a better view
right.
within the story.
Yes. Yeah. And in that example, the conflict can even be internal within herself because she's making a choice, right? So our protagonists, we want them to be active, not passive. What does that mean? It means that they make choices. Their choices have consequences. There are ripple effects from that. So no matter what circumstance in the prior scene is leading her to go pack that bag, there's still a choice. Does she stay with the child? Does she take the child with her? Does she leave the child at home for whatever compelling reason, right? Or not compelling, maybe she's just running away because that's who she is. And then that's what she has to deal with down the
Hmm.
road, right? But the main thing is that the reader is aware of that tension, however subtle or nuanced or internal it may be, because that's what gets us to that question, what's going to happen next? And that's what keeps us engaged.
Yeah, definitely. So, is there a way that you use to analyze your scenes or things to find this tension or find this conflict and be able to know, hey, there it is. That's why this scene is important. That's why this is in the story. Or maybe I'm missing it and I need to insert it.
Yeah, so I think it's just honest assessment. So I write a scene and I've got an idea that it's about this and I want to show this thing is happening. And then when you go back and look at it again, I'm always asking myself, is this doing what I need it to do? And if I can't identify, if I can't name what I need it to do, then I'm probably not clear on what its real
Mm-hmm.
purpose is within that story. So first, I need to be able to stick a name on it, right? This is what I need it to do. And then I need to be honest with myself and say, is it doing this? And not what's in my head, right? But what's on the page. Is it going to communicate that thing to the reader? And I'm always thinking ahead too. Like I've got characters in my work in progress are crocheting Afghans. One of them is teaching the other girls to crochet. right? And so it comes up several times throughout a movement of chapters. And, the first time it comes up, what's it about? Well, they're in an institution. Um, and one girl says, make your Afghan a coverlet for your bed. It'll brighten up this place. And she can't bring herself to say to make it feel like home because it's not a
Mm.
home. It's right. It's this institution. So there's tension just in that moment of contrast between what's a home, where are they, right? What isn't a home? And it comes up later, and the other girls are learning how to crochet. And so there's some camaraderie and some community, and you're seeing a little bit more, distinction between the characters and what they're doing. But then as I'm looking at each instance of the crocheting, I'm asking myself, is this building on the last one? And when I get to the end of this movement where its presence is most powerful, right? The symbolism of it and its connection to all of the girls and their relationship to each other. Have I hit that mark?
Mm.
So it's like looking at what am I laying down? Why am I laying it down? How is it building? And did I just get away from your question?
No, no, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, being able to identify what it is you're trying to do with that scene is so important, and I think that's where that being able to look at your work honestly is it's hard, and maybe that's
Hmm.
where distance or, other people reading it or allowing yourself to kinda see it through different eyes might help, um, but yeah, that honest look is so
Yes.
important.
Yes. Yeah. And we were just talking with Sherry Roberts a couple of days ago recording the podcast, and she mentioned looking at every one of her scenes and asking herself what had changed and then assigning it words like the character feels safe at the beginning of the scene, the character feels threatened at the end of the scene. And so something as granular as that can be really helpful. I haven't employed that technique myself. I don't know that I
Mhm.
would, right? But I think it's the same as what I've just been describing is looking at your scene and saying, why is it here? Is it carrying its weight? What effect is it having on the reader? You know,
Yeah.
so if you're fuzzy about those questions, then I think using that technique of I'm giving it a word at the beginning of the scene, I'm giving it a word at the end of the scene, is it a different word? That can be really useful.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder if you're looking specifically for tension or conflict kind of within that scene, maybe you could even label the kind of tension it is, within herself or in between this character and this character or in between this and, the problem that she's facing or whatever it is that she has to overcome,
Hmm.
maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm a big believer in whatever is helpful in the moment,
Mhm.
right? Like take a tool, use it, see how well it works for you, give it a fair shot. And if it isn't working well for you, adapt it or drop it and find something else. Because the point of these tools isn't to create a system that never changes or evolves with you. You're evolving as a writer, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I think every person is going to have different things that they're struggling with in that moment or in that draft. So some people might need to identify the
Yes.
change. Some people might need to identify why is this scene even here? And it'll be
Yes.
different for every writer.
Uh-huh. Definitely.
Awesome. Okay. So I have one more question. How do conflict and stakes interact?
Well, conflict is your source of stakes. And what I always teach, I teach stakes and tension. Okay.
Hmm.
So, um, dramatic tension, whatever the source, whether it's overt conflict or something more quiet, we've said is the engine of your story, right? So your as you encounter conflict or dramatic tension or whatever, we we want to see it escalating all the way up to the climax, broadly speaking. So our stakes go up. Now, stakes are what the character experiences, what the character stands to gain or lose in the conflict, right? Over the course of the story. Tension is what the reader experiences as a result of following this character's journey. So you can have a character who is, staring down a car crash or a divorce or whatever, some high stakes event. So stakes, and you can have a reader who goes, yeah, okay, I saw it coming, or I just don't care that much, or yeah, I've seen a million car crashes. How is this one going to be different? So then you've got stakes and tension in very different places, and your story's not working. So what we want to see is a tight relationship between stakes and tension. They're BFFs. I don't know, can I turn my fingers the right way?
Yes.
Right? BFFs. So as stakes escalate, tension escalates. So whatever the level of the thing your character stands to gain and lose in that moment, you want your reader's feeling of tension, your reader's perception to be with that moving together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the relationship between stakes and tension, or conflict and tension.
Perfect. All right.
Cool.
That wraps up my questions on conflict. So if anybody has anything that they want to chat about, feel free to drop it in chat. I do have one more question that I'll use as closing, but anything anybody is thinking about, feel free to drop it in. All right. So, my last question is going to deal a little bit with inspiration and with the break that we're going to take this summer. What is an activity that you're looking forward to for this summer, and how does it inspire or fuel your creativity and your writing?
Hmm. Well, kayaking. I mean, I always look forward to see kayaking and camping, and I think it fuels my creativity by getting me out of my house and away from my desk. It gives me a break, gets me in nature, gives my hands a break from typing, my fingers. It helps just to do something else mentally, physically, environmentally, a change of scene. So I think that is always good for creativity. And then whatever wheels are turning get to stop turning for a while. So you come back
Mhm.
and they're fresh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't do as many activities as you do during the summer, but I will say that just the pure inspiration of just the outdoor I getting out of your life, wanting to be in the outdoors, it just changes the mindset. And to me, I don't bring my phone outside. I don't bring a book outside. I just sit and watch and observe and allow my brain to quiet, which allows that creativity to flow differently. So I imagine it's
Hmm.
similar when you're out on the lake in your kayak and everything just sort of like so.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Although sea kayaking is really active.
No, I mean, like, your brain is focused on a different
Yes.
it's like your brain can just take a breath and it's like, "Okay, I'm not spinning 8,000,000 miles per hour. I'm looking at this vista or I'm focusing on this passage," or, whatever. So,
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know, this is probably a total aside. We'll see. Maybe it ties into
it's
writing.
okay.
Over Memorial Day weekend, I was paddling on Lake Superior, and we actually had really easy conditions for Lake Superior, but one day I was playing this game called Kiss the Rock, where so there's a rock, like a cliff shelf, a big sandstone rock coming out of the water, and you paddle up and you put the nose of your kayak as close to the rock as you can. And then the waves are lifting you, right? And you want to hold your position. So you don't want to let the water push you into the rock, and you don't want to let the water pull you way out. So I'm playing this game. And at one point, I started noticing that, I mean, there's no thinking involved. You can't think. There isn't time to be logical. It's totally this, like sensing, so I'd sort of feel the water hitting one side of my hull and just knowing which blade to dip in and whether to do a forward stroke or a backstroke. And it's this total flow state that we talk about as artists, right? But it was also that while paddling where you're just being receptive and
Mm,
connected, and it's all this kind of intuition. And I think proprioception is maybe a good word for it, where it's very in the body. And I don't know if that ties to
mhm.
writing, but I felt like sharing it. So maybe it does. Maybe it's connecting with someone.
No, yeah, it works for me.
Yeah. Yes. And then this big wave came under, and I was like, whoosh. So going, ah. It's actually very fun.
Yeah,
Get a little thrill.
not not something I would ever do, but I'm glad for you.
Thank you. I like it.
Awesome. All right. Well,
All
let's
right.
dive back into announcements really quick, and then we'll be all done for today. So, Ask Alida is on hiatus for the summer. We'll see you again in October, first Monday in October. So, in the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments under this post. Alida is on top of that. So, okay, on to your announcement.
Okay. Novel Journey is opening soon, a year-long coaching program for novelists. If you're interested, go to wordessential.com, check out the Novel Journey page, sign up for a discovery call, get on my announcements, not a newsletter list, and be one of the first to know. Um, Murder in Skog Hall and Dark Corners in Skog Hall are both available on NetGalley right now. So if you're a reviewer, go grab those. And I have some events in Minnesota, live events. So if you're a Minnesotan, go to wordessential.com/workshops, scroll down to events, and you can track me down.
Awesome.
Yeah,
All
cool.
right. Well, thank you,
All
Alida.
right.
This was good.
Yeah. Thank you, Catherine. Okay.
Nice to see everybody.
Yep. We will see you in October. Have a wonderful summer with lots of outdoors time.